But this is just the start of things to come. By 1989, Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses' debut album, had made them one of the biggest bands in the world. But their talented and charismatic frontman, Axl Rose, is now infamous for his erratic and destructive behavior. On October 18, 1989, the band is realizing a lifelong ambition to play with the iconic Rolling Stones at the LA Coliseum.
Guns N' Roses are actually way bigger than the Stones at this point.
At that time, I was the tour manager. It was a chance to shine, you know, to do something unbelievable.
But when the band arrives at the venue for the sound check, their frontman is nowhere to be found.
Axl, he's freaked out. He's freaked out. He doesn't want to do the show. I mean, Axl said to me many times, he said, you know, the bigger the show, comes to the, I'm all psyched up, and then come the day, I don't want to do the show. I'm not doing the show.
He felt like he wasn't ready to deliver. If he didn't have the energy to give to the audience, he didn't want to fake it.
Right, he was a huge Rolling Stones fan anyway, and now we're playing a massive stage at the LA Coliseum. And so the whole magnitude of it was a little much for him. So he said, Doug, I can't see the stage, I just can't.
To get Axl on stage, tour manager Doug Goldstein resorts to extreme measures.
I sent police because Axl wasn't going to make it to the stage on time. So we put him in a car, got him down there as soon as possible.
I mean, only in LA could, you know, you call the police and cajole them into going and dragging Axl out of his house and getting him there to perform.
As soon as we opened the show, Axl ran to the front of the stage, not knowing that there was a cutout in the stage, and he went right into the pit. But that's just one of the things that happens when you don't sound check and see the nuances of what's there.
All these years later, I'm shuddering at the memory of it, because when he came out of that pit, I mean, you know, he's going to kill every MF in the room, okay?
After a few songs, Axl makes a shocking announcement.
And unless certain people in this band get their together, these will be the last Guns N' Roses shows you ever see. Because I'm tired of too many people in this organization dancing with Mr. Goddamn Brownstone.
Mr. Brownstone was written by Izzy as sort of an ode to dancing with the devil being heroin. And I think he was personally embarrassed that members of his band were absolutely incoherent on drugs, drink, and every other substance you can think of.
And he refuses to do the second show the following night unless Slash publicly apologizes and promises he will clean up his act. What should have been a wonderful moment in their career becomes a debacle. Slash ends up hating him, putting him in that position. The manager and everybody associated with the show, including the Stones, end up hating him because he's kept them, you know, he's threatened to ruin the whole thing.
It was very tense, and it was tense backstage afterwards.
Axl's impulsiveness is also evident in his personal life. On April 28, 1990, he marries Erin at the Cupid Wedding Chapel in Las Vegas.
I want to introduce you to my wife, Erin.
Hello.
Victor Everly Rose.
Hello.
She's the Hollywood queen that he falls in love with, that he begs to marry. They take off for Las Vegas. Late one night, they get married.
That seemed as though it might work for a while because they were as good and as bad as each other.
And 3 weeks later, they're filing for divorce. You know, tempestuous barely describes it.
You've got two cars going at 60 miles an hour. The impact speed is 120.
Throwing himself into both his marriage and Guns N' Roses' second albums, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, the pressure soon begins to show.
2 Use Your Illusions were the records he always wanted to make.
Axl was always pushing the envelope and, you know, and wanting to move forward. And when Axl writes a song, he painstakingly works through every word in a lyric to make sure it's right.
Axl's personal ambitions for the albums and his need for perfection means he often works all night.
Last time, big interview I did with him, he rang me at midnight and said, "Get your ass over here, I've got stuff I want to talk about." And we were there till 5 in the morning.
And tensions within the band are escalating with their increasingly hedonistic behavior.
They were loose cannons, all of them, and they were all drug dependent, alcohol dependent, off the rails with women in every town. You know, the 3 basic ingredients that will send them off the rails. And they were uncontrollable.
In particular, drummer Steven Adler's major drug addiction is becoming untenable.
He's working on Civil War, which is a key track on Use Your Illusion, and he cannot get the take because he's smacked out of his brain.
Steven was showing up, nodding out, and he wasn't able to perform his parts.
In July 1990, Steven Adler is officially fired from the band.
When you get fired from Guns N' Roses for doing too many drugs, you know it's time to maybe curb your drug usage.
Adding to the tensions within the band, Axl's relationship with his new wife, Erin, is also under strain.
It was an incredibly volatile relationship. So I'd get the phone calls, right? Dougie, it's Aaron, get over here. You know, he'd throw all the furniture through the window. Okay.
It was just crazy. I just got a phone call, go up, the piano just got pushed out the window, you know. I'm just, hey, Axl, what's going on? Hey, man, we gotta get a new window. Might need a new piano, too.
You know, the love with Aaron is the rose, and, you know, the gun is the brutality of pushing a piano with brute force out your balcony and into the swimming pool 5 floors below.
But when Erin discovers she's pregnant in September 1990, everything changes.
And he was desperate to have children. He was incredibly ecstatic when he found out that Erin was pregnant. Like many people who've suffered a dysfunctional childhood, there is a desperate need to create a family of your own, to put right the wrongs that occurred when you were a child.
Then, in the 3rd month of her pregnancy, disaster strikes.
But the pregnancy did not sustain, and the relationship did suffer because of her miscarriage.
The next day, Axl's arrest is caught on camera.
Axl, what's going on, man? What do you want to know?
The lead singer of the group Guns N' Roses allegedly slammed a wine bottle into a woman neighbor's head.
Axl? I live next door to a psycho.
Axl appears to have gone into one of his usual rages when he finds out about the miscarriage, and this incident actually made the news.
I mean, there's nothing else I can do. See you in court.
He's released on $5,000 bail, and the case is eventually dismissed 6 weeks later. But the incident only aggravates Axl's volatile state. His relationship with Erin can't handle it.
And all of that pressure caused the relationship to disintegrate.
In January 1991, their marriage is officially annulled.
When Axl split with Erin, I mean, it was pretty sad. It was the love of his life. And then it was sort of like, what's going to happen now?
His marriage may have been over, but the 2 Use Your Illusion albums are about to be released to critical acclaim and accompanied by a massive tour. It will be one of the longest in rock and roll history.
It was all bigger than life. The biggest sound. They were the biggest band in the world, so they wanted those big things.
Despite phenomenal success, Axl is playing by his own rules.
It's taking Axl 7 or 8 hours just to get ready to go on stage, to the point where he is never, underline never, on stage on time.
John Reese was Guns N' Roses tour manager.
He just ran on his own clock. And thinking back now, it was stressful as hell dealing with that. in that kind of like insanity of, he's going to be on an hour and a half late, we're risking a riot and it's $10,000, let's go.
July 2nd, 1991, Riverport Amphitheater, St. Louis.
The band went out, they started playing. Axl got pissed off at somebody in the crowd.
Take that!
A fan started taking stills pictures during the show, and Axl went crazy.
Now, get that guy and take that! I'll take it, goddammit!
He dived into the crowd and started beating the guy up and taking the law into his own hands, to the point that he couldn't be controlled.
It was a motorcycle guy that was taking pictures when there was a clear policy of not taking pictures. That's his right to not have his picture taken if he doesn't want to.
Well, thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home.
And he walked off the stage, and the place just erupted instantly into violence.
And what people don't know is that he was willing to go back, and he was ready to go back. I was with him in the dressing room, and we were going to go back on the stage, but the riot had already started.
They ripped the seats out, were throwing them around. I mean, that crowd was so violent. I've never seen anything like it.
In the resulting riot, some 80 people were injured, including 25 cops. Damage was estimated at $250,000.
For one band member, riots and late appearances are taking their toll.
I was actually at Axl's house when Izzy pulled up for like the last conversation, and it had been brewing, and basically the rest of the band were really upset that they were paying out $500,000 in penalties because Axl was getting to stage late. Axl goes, "It's the cost of doing business, take it or leave it." And Izzy said, "I'm leaving it."
That would have hit Axl very hard indeed, because they'd obviously come from childhood together. They were friends since they were kids, and that is part of your support network.
But Izzy's frustration with Axl is only the tip of the iceberg. The Guns N' Roses frontman is in danger of driving everyone else away too. (1991). Guns N' Roses' second albums, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, are riding high in the charts. Axl Rose is now one of the most famous and controversial frontmen in the world. And he's dating model Stephanie Seymour.
Axl and Stephanie, I believe, met on the Don't Cry video.
She's already been married. She already has a successful career as a model. She's had a very wealthy husband. She lives in that rarefied California atmosphere where you will fly private and you will go to, you know, $10,000 a plate charity functions. And he falls head over heels in love.
He was 29, 30 years old and had more money than God, had more, more fame than you can, worldwide fame, dating the most beautiful woman on the planet.
The apex comes with the November Rain video, where you've got this scene where Axl is marrying his true life sweetheart, and the best man is Slash. I mean, it's the most ridiculous video you've ever seen. It's preposterous, it's cringy, but it's a classic, and it's so true to life. Like everything Axl does, it reflects his real life. And he really is going to marry Stephanie, and he really does want it to be like this in his fantasy.
Stephanie also comes with a young son.
She has a young boy, Dylan, from her marriage, and Axl becomes very close to Dylan, very attached to Dylan.
Was a great kid, and, my kid and Stephanie's kid, Dylan, they played on the plane together, they played at the gigs.
And he just loved that kid, and he just wanted to be his dad.
Axl's dreams of fatherhood are coming true, but he's also about to fulfill another lifelong ambition. April 20th, 1992, Wembley Stadium, London, England. Guns N' Roses is performing in the Freddie Mercury tribute concert for AIDS awareness when Axl is joined on stage by his childhood hero.
Elton John has to be the one guy for Axl Rose that was the greatest songwriter, the greatest musician, who he really looked up to. It meant the world to Axl to have that support from his childhood hero.
Axl seems to have everything he could possibly want, but once again, it starts to unravel. August 8th, 1992, Olympic Stadium, Montreal, Canada. Guns N' Roses are on tour with Metallica when their lead singer James Hetfield is badly burned by a misplaced pyrotechnic.
There was an incident with the pyrotechnics. Unfortunately, James is on his way to the hospital right now, and we're very sorry, but we can't continue the concert for you guys tonight.
The organizers asked Guns N' Roses to get on stage quickly so the concert can continue. But Axl makes the 53,000-strong audience wait for over 2 hours.
I have to call him and say, James just blew up. I need you to get here as soon as you can. He said, I'm right in the middle. I'll do the best I can, but I'm right in the middle of my 4-hour prep. I said, I got it, but I need you to get here.
When they finally get on stage, the band gives a lackluster performance.
He starts singing, and he calls me over. I always stood stage left so that he could communicate with me. And he walks over and he goes, I can't talk, let alone sing. And I could hear it. What should I do? And so he tried to continue to sing for another 2 songs, and it was apparent to all of us, he's physically incapable of singing. So he walked off the stage and a riot ensued.
More than 2,000 angry fans fight with police, resulting in nearly $500,000 of damage.
At least 8 police and 10 concertgoers sustained minor injuries in the melee that followed.
The riot would cement Axl and the band's association with controversy. Everything that Axl is working for could fall apart, but he's concerned.
He's never going to defend himself. He just won't. He doesn't explain his art, right? And he's not into trying to clarify other people's opinion of who he is. Axl was a mess on that tour, particularly after it started getting really ugly with Stephanie Seymour. He was very suicidal, very depressed.
He wanted to marry Stephanie, and he wanted to live happily ever after with her. And I just think that their combative personalities together, sometimes lemon and vinegar doesn't mix.
December 1992, Malibu. Stephanie and Axl are hosting a party at home.
It's Christmas. It's supposed to be a big Christmas party, everybody happy, and Axl storms in.
What the hell is going on?
He's convinced that she's been conducting affairs behind his back.
Supposedly she was writing in her diary about some other man, and he had read it, and the whole relationship imploded.
He flew into a gross, unbelievable rage, at which point all the guests at the party start leaving and he is uncontrollable. Because this is another thing about the toddler in Axl. Nobody breaks up with him, he breaks up with you.
Smashes the joint up, throws everybody out, beats her up, and that's effectively the end of the relationship.
The really sad aspect of that relationship falling apart was that he lost Dylan. Axl and Dylan had forged a really lovely little relationship at this point and had grown close.
Axl loved his role of being a father. And losing that role and losing the happiness of a family that he always wanted to create was devastating.
Axl reveals the inner torment that could have been driving his destructive patterns.
One night that Axl basically called me to come down to the studio, and I went down to the studio and he was sort of sitting on the floor with a big box of chili cheese fat burgers. He looked at me very solemn and he said, Tom, he said, I want you to get me that cover of Rolling Stone. I'm gonna out my dad.
Axl starts to unearth what for him are very disturbing memories.
Here's a guy who's the biggest rock star in the world, and he wants to take his one opportunity to be on the cover of Rolling Stone to out abuse. It was just absolutely horrific. And he goes, if I can spare one kid's life from having to live this kind of then it'll be worth it.
Axl continued to openly talk about his past.
Because it might not